Identity. What's in a name? Let's turn to an expert on introduction who some of you may be familiar with.
Hello. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Inigo here provides the perfect introduction. He states his full name, identifies the issue he is addressing, and then sets expectations for the future. Now, I think it would be best to start things going by introducing ourselves. So I'm going to count to 3, and then I want everyone to pretend they are a name badge like Inigo's here. For example, I will say something like, "Hello, my name is Andrew Walker." Ready? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Hello, my name is Andrew Walker. Wait a minute though. That's not my full name. My parents gifted me with 2 middle names for reasons lost to family lore. My full name is Andrew Edwin Dale Walker. My beautiful wife, for reasons known only to her, likes to call me Edwin sometimes. But most people call me Andy. Well, this isn't actually the full story either. You see, back in the 80s, I established an online identity, The Wizard. Later, I changed it to Shadow Kathmandu, mostly because there were a lot of people calling themselves Wizard online. It wasn't very unique. Sometime after this, I started playing a game called EverQuest. My primary character was a female bard whose name was a feminization of Shadow Kathmandu, Shikatma. Starting to look a little crowded there. And I ain't done yet. Some of you may be saying that doesn't count. However, there was one occasion where I met one of my EverQuest friends in a public place, and although they knew my real name, they called out Shaka when they saw me. Oh yeah, Shaka is short for Shikatma, so there's another name for me. For that matter, well, eventually I had 6 EverQuest accounts with 11 characters each. Oh my goodness. We're not quite there yet, Rick. Man, that's a lot of names for just one person. But it's still not everything. No, I don't have more names actually, but there's more to my identity. I am a professional nerd. I am a Unitarian Universalist, and I belong to that class which, here in America, is elevated far higher than it should be. Overweight white male. My name tag is a bit full, however, so I will have to use a second one. There we go. But what does this all mean? Well, let's simplify things a bit. My name's Andrew, so let's start there. Andrew is a good, solid, masculine name. Nobody who hears me say my name is Andrew questions my gender identity. It's a good masculine name, as good as John or Wayne or Marion. Yes, I said Marion. And yes, some of you may question whether Marion is a masculine name. Take it up with this guy. That's right, the Duke. John Wayne's birth name is Marion Morrison. Nobody questions his masculinity. But his birth name? But what makes Marion a feminine name and John or Andrew a masculine name? Here's where I make a controversial statement. Identity is an entirely artificial construct. The truth is, there is nothing more masculine or feminine about any name. It is only our perception of those names, something we invented ourselves along with the language to express those concepts. After all, every word in the English language is a made-up word if you go back far enough. Think about this. The brain named itself. Nonetheless, if I put on a dress, 2 things will go through people's heads when they see me. One, that guy is trying to pretend to be a girl. And two, he should probably shave if he wants to look like a woman. There is nothing inherently male or female in a dress, but somebody somewhere decided dress wearing was for women. Perceptions like this drive our behavior. If somebody realizes they are other than what seems to have been physically assigned to them at birth, they emulate the behaviors and physicality which society associates with that gender. Those behaviors and physical features are not inherently anything, but they are vital to our self-image. I think is the key. If I stand up here and speak in a deep tone, will you think me more masculine? If I start talking like a Southern belle, will you think me more feminine? When I change my voice, I project a different image. Hopefully, one I identify with. Identity is an artificial construct, but it is also at the core of our being. The author, my family always calls them Arthurs, the author, George R.R. Martin, who wrote The Game of Thrones, said, "Never forget what you are, for surely the world will not. Make it your strength, then it can never be your weakness. Armor yourself in it, and it will never be used to hurt you." Having said that, we, particularly as Unitarian Universalists, should be aware of the struggle some people go through just in being themselves. Think about how I first appeared today as a superhero underdog. One common attribute of superheroes is a secret identity. Sadly, many regular folks keep their identity secret, or at least a significant part of it secret, because there are many detractors out there who will disregard or even violently oppose someone's self-identification. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment." This is even more true today than it was in Emerson's time. Identity is also a two-way street. Think about how I identified myself earlier. Okay, not all of it. There was a lot there. Let's focus on a couple of specific parts. I work full-time as a professional nerd at a company called Jacobs. Those of you who have never heard of Jacobs have just formed an impression of the company. Jacobs is a company who employs guys like me. Most companies will not hesitate to remind their employees that you represent them no matter where you go. This applies to our faith as well. If we introduce ourselves as Unitarian Universalist or as an All Souls congregant, people now have a further clue about our identity and a bit of information about the identity of our religion. So our faith also has an identity. Identity is not just for individuals. An identity is a living, breathing, growing thing. Case in point, 2 days from now, the identity of All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church will change from a church with interim ministers to a church with a settled minister. Reverend Ron will guide us along a new path and help us grow our communal identity into something it has never been before. It will be similar to what it has been, but never quite the same. This brings up an interesting point. One person will change the identity of this church. Now, most of you thought of our new minister when I said that, and while it is true he will change our collective identity, he's not the only one. Whenever somebody new walks through our doors, they have an impact, whether they are a minister or a congregant. The same is true on a personal level. Can you imagine your life without your family and friends? Just as they have had an impact on your life and your identity, so have you had an impact on theirs. As novelist Chuck Palahniuk once said, "Nothing of me is original. I am the combined effort of everyone I've ever known." By the way, This brings me to one more identity for me. I am a happily married man. My wife has had such an amazing impact on my life. I can't really describe it. Well, maybe I could, but you probably don't want to be here all day listening to me go on and on about my beautiful soulmate. I started out by asking, but at place. Although identity is a construct, the answer to what is in it is simple. Everything. Everything is in a name, in an identity. That is what makes it so important. Our first principle recognizes the inherent worth and dignity of every person. That first UU principle is all about identity. We are all important, no matter who we are, and how we identify ourselves. Identity is also a fluid, evolving thing. As Unitarian Universalists, I think we have an audio problem. Identified that. I'm going to move to this mic. I know it's working. Are we good? Okay, try it one more time. Identity is also a fluid, evolving thing, kind of like of our audio. As Unitarian Universalists who practice that first principle, we should acknowledge this in ourselves as well as in others, understanding that who we are can change from one day to the next. Even our old friend Inigo understood this.
Have you ever considered piracy? It'd make a wonderful Dread Pirate Roberts.
Thank you very much for your attention today. May you always be secure in your identity, pirate or otherwise.